Elena had worked in the morgue for 15 years, cataloging the belongings of the dead with practiced efficiency. But when she found the letter in the elderly man's jacket pocket, everything changed. It was addressed to Elena Rodriguez, her exact name. Dated 1987, it described a brief encounter at a coffee shop where she had worked in college. The shy customer who came daily for months, too nervous to speak. David. His words revealed how her smile had been his only bright spot during his mother's terminal illness, how he regretted never finding the courage to ask her out. Elena broke down, realizing she had just possessed the body of someone who had loved her from afar for decades. We touch more lives than we'll ever know. Margaret thought jury duty would be routine until she saw the defendant's face. Carlos, 45, facing 15 years for armed robbery. Something about him felt familiar, but she couldn't place it. During testimony, that nagging recognition grew stronger. Then he removed his jacket, revealing a distinctive scar on his forearm. Her heart stopped. 5 years ago, this man had pulled her from her burning car after a crash. He stayed until paramedics arrived, then disappeared without a name. Now she had to judge the stranger who saved her life. During deliberations, she chose justice over gratitude, but privately arranged help for his family. Sometimes good people make desperate choices. Mercy and justice can coexist. What would you do if you discovered someone secretly living in your workplace? Marcus had been a night security guard for 8 years, walking the same halls every night at 2 a.m. He knew every sound, every shadow in the corporate building. But on the 8th floor, something was different. A desk lamp left on, a blanket in the supply closet, fresh food in the trash. For 3 nights, he investigated these strange clues. Then he found her. Jennifer, 28 and pregnant, asleep under her desk with a pillow and her few belongings. She broke down crying, explaining she'd been living there for 2 months after losing her apartment. Too ashamed to tell anyone she was homeless. Marcus remembered his own nights on the streets years ago. Instead of reporting her, he invited Jennifer to stay with his family. Sometimes kindness creates the most beautiful chains. Every Tuesday at 9:30, Roberto would pick up Ruth for her trip to the medical district. For 8 months, the 82-year-old would slide into his cab with a gentle smile. They'd talk about her garden, his grandchildren, anything but where she was going. Week by week, Roberto noticed she seemed frailer, but Ruth never complained. Then, one Tuesday, she didn't show up. The next week, nothing again. Her house sat dark, newspapers piling up. Days later, Ruth's daughter called the cab company. Ruth had died peacefully, but left Roberto something in her will. Her car and a letter explaining how his kindness during her cancer treatments made her final months bearable. Sometimes the smallest acts of consistency become someone's greatest comfort. Have you ever noticed someone who clearly needed help but wasn't sure if you should get involved? Sarah had been a flight attendant for 15 years, and she thought she'd seen everything. But on this red-eye from Denver to Boston, something felt different about the passenger in seat 12A. Thomas kept checking his medical bracelet and declining every offer of food or drink. She watched him clutch a small wrapped gift, while tears rolled down his cheeks. Then she overheard his hushed phone call about final arrangements and saying goodbye. When his medical papers fell, Sarah saw the terminal diagnosis. He was flying to see his estranged daughter one last time, carrying his late wife's wedding ring. Sarah quietly upgraded him to first class and helped him practice his words. Sometimes breaking protocol is exactly what someone needs most. Did you know a barista discovered he was someone's lifeline without ever knowing it? Kyle had been serving Emma the same complicated coffee order every morning at 7:15 for 2 years. She always left generous tips and made small talk about the weather. But slowly, Emma started looking thinner, her hands shaking as she held her cup. Then her visits became erratic before stopping completely. A week later, Kyle found her obituary online: cancer. The next day, Emma's sister walked into the coffee shop with a letter. Emma had written that Kyle's daily kindness was the bright spot during her chemotherapy. His smile gave her something to look forward to every morning. Sometimes we're someone's hope without realizing it. Did you know a barber discovered his son's heart was still beating 3 years after he died? Marcus had run the same barbershop for 30 years, cutting hair and sharing stories with familiar faces. Then David walked in, a newcomer seeking a fresh start after a health scare. Over months of haircuts, they became friends as David shared his journey, recovering from a life-saving heart transplant. One day, David mentioned the exact date and hospital where he received his new heart. Marcus froze. Those details matched perfectly with when his 19-year-old son died in a motorcycle accident. When Marcus placed his trembling hand on David's chest, he felt it, his son's heart still beating strong. Grace found her mother's unfinished knitting project hidden in an old sewing box. The pattern was unlike anything she'd ever seen, incredibly complex with strange notes in the margins. Dates, initials, cryptic symbols that made no sense. She tried to finish it but couldn't understand the design. So she searched online and discovered something shocking. This wasn't just knitting. It was a secret code used by Holocaust survivors. Each stitch represented a lost family member. The initials matched relatives Grace never knew existed. Her mother had an older sister who died in the camps, a secret kept for 60 years. Grace completed the pattern with tears in her eyes. Her mother had knitted a memorial in silence her entire life. Love had survived even the darkest family secrets.